Welcome to another support Q&A session, and this is going to be our victim or scapegoat of the day. So I'm going to begin with the infinity wrap play suit, and what's happening at the top part there is just basically two very long strips, two very long strips of fabric that go however you want them to go, around your neck, to one side, as a tube. Like, there's so much you can do with it. I will look for videos or pictures showing how people play around the infinity wrap, and then you make your choice based on the pictures and know how long you want your infinity wrap to be. You can go as long as a whole 3 yards. 3 yards is 72, so on to the math for me. 72 plus 36, so 3 yards is 108 inches. Yes, so you can go as long as that, so you have enough to play with. Like, that's what I would suggest you go with, like 108 inches. You could go lower, you could go higher, depending on how much you want to play around with the wrap. So for this video, I am going to focus on the top part. Sorry, on the what's going on the bottom part. So I am basically going to show you how I cut shorts, and to also give you an idea of how I cut trousers. Well, maybe I'll do a different video on that one, but I'm going to show you how I cut shorts. So we are focusing on the bottom for this one now. I hope this is clear. I do not want to be out of the frame today. Okay, I am going to be making my markings with the pen so that you can see what I'm doing. So what I do generally when I'm creating shorts, I like to work from one straight corner of the fabric. So it could be the English edge, it could be a fold like this, but I always look for a straight edge. That's what I do. So for this one, let me do just the way I would if I was cutting an actual short. So this is the straight edge. I'm not going to bother about all this now since it's just a sample, but this is the straight edge. So what I'm going to do now is fold it over like this, and then mark out my short length. Am I in the center of the, can you see? So I'll mark out my short length. So I'm going to get a straight perpendicular line here. When I say perpendicular, I mean perpendicular to the straight line. So like perpendicular to this line. Yeah, this. And then I'll measure the length of the shirt. Now this length, now this length is the actual length of the person's shorts. That's all, no allowance. Why I am doing it that way is because the band is going to add to the length of the short. So by the time I add the band, it's going to add extra length. So say for example we are doing a 2-inch band, so that 2 inches is already adding to the length of the shorts, which you can now take out from the bottom and part of it to go out here. Are we together? So there is no need to add off. On my own part, in my own method, I do not add any sewing allowance to the length of shorts at all. So now that we have the length of our shorts marked out, I generally take 2 inches from the end of the line, 2 inches like this, run it. You do not really have to run it all the way down, but for demonstration purposes I will. And then I mark out the crotch. I'm going to share an image, a photo on the screen now, showing one method to measure the crotch. On the side of the hip, measure from the waist to wherever the shorts will stop, and then from the actual crotch area you measure to that same point and subtract. So that length that you get, you're going to add 1/2 inch sewing allowance. That's if you plan to sew this with 1/2 inch, you're adding 1/2 inch sewing allowance. So you take the crotch length plus your 1/2 inch sewing allowance and you mark. So this is where, am I in the frame? Okay, so this is where we'll have our crotch marked out. Now all you need to do at this point is just do a little curve very close to the point where you joined, just like this. For ladies trousers, shorts, I curve like this. I do not go this way. The only time I will do this when I'm doing trousers for boys, for guys, boys basically. That's when I curve like this. But for ladies, it's a very sharp curve close to where both lines meet. Just very sharp curve, almost as if it's straight. That's what works for me. There might be other ways, other methods, but this works like 99.999999999%, in fact 100% of the time. It works. I don't have any camel toe, I don't have any folds, nothing. This is what works for me. In addition to this, I also take 1 1/4 down here and mark out 1 1/4. We are going to do something with this 1 1/4, but for now just mark it out and leave it there. And then the next thing I'm taking is the waist. The waist divided by 4. Hold on please. And we're back. So what you're taking here now is the waist. At whatever point you took the waist, if it's a high waist short, this is the person's waist at the high waist. If it's lower, it's the waist at whatever point the client says they want the short to start. That is where you take this. So the usual, divide your waist by 4, add your sewing allowance. So I generally add 1/2 inch for this part and another 1/2 inch for this side, so 1/2 inch allowance on each side. But if you are unsure or you're dealing with a client that their body size can change at any time, so it's preferable that you add 1/2 inch to this side and then 1 inch to this other side. So altogether that's 1 1/2 plus your waist divided by 4, and that is what you're marking here. Next you take your hip length. Now for the hip length, that is from the waist to the fullest part of the hip. For the hip length, you are going to subtract this 1 1/4 that we took here from your hip length. So let's say we have 9 is our hip length. So that means what I'll be measuring here is not 9. What I'll be measuring here is 7 3/4. Yes, 7 3/4 that I'll be measuring here as our hip length. Reason being, these points that we have measured, including our sewing allowance, we're going to run it down like this. Now what this does is prevent camel toe. I do not understand the science behind it honestly, but it works like magic. Let me just tell you a very fun tip now. If you have any jumpsuit or any trouser or anything that you've sewn, any trouser related stuff that you've sewn before now, and you're struggling with camel toe issues, just do this to the front part of the trouser. It's magic. Camel toe line will disappear. So having slanted this here, you're going to take out this measurement from here, because when you eventually wear this, it's not going to be slanted like this on your body. It's going to be straight, meaning that this place will pull down to make a straight line. Can you see? So when it pulls down and you've already removed that 1 1/4 from it, it will come to the actual hip length. So it will come down by 1 1/4, leaving the hip line on the correct spot. If you do not do this and you slant here, when the person wears it, the hip line will fall below where the person's full part of the hip is, and we don't want that to happen. That's why we are taking out the 1 1/4 from here. So now that we have our hip line, same thing, take your hip measurement, add 1 inch for this side, 1 inch allowance for this side, and ½ inch allowance for this side. Whatever you have is what you're marking here, and then you can slant. So if it's a short, I generally would just go straight like this. Trust me, it's the best. Do not attempt to start slanting it or doing all of that, because when the person wears it, it will be bunching up. Like before the person walks from here to here, you have the whole short packing up on the person's laps, and it's not a good look. So what I do generally, no matter how the client insists on having it super fitted, they eventually come to realize that this works better. So whatever we have here is what I am going to measure here, so that we can have a straight line coming down. So this is our shorts. This is the front part of our shorts, ready to be cut. Part of the reason why I like working from this corner is because when I have excess fabric here, I can easily just shift it back and stop myself from wasting the fabric. So yeah, I'm going to cut this out now. So in reality, we'll be putting these two together, they'll be pinned together, and then we use to create the back. But this is a sample, so I don't really have to do this. I just need this one to show you how I will create the back. Let's go. Please forgive my cracked nails. I haven't even had time to get them fixed. Stop shaking. Stop shaking. Okay, so same thing, fold this up, get a straight line side, get a straight side, and then we're going to use this now to create back. But for sample purposes, for pattern purposes, I am not going to need to double this, so I'm not going to double it. But when you're doing yours, double it. We're going to keep it like this, and we're going to use it to create the back. Now the back and front are almost the same, but as you may have noticed, when I'm creating skirts as well as shorts, I do not put that in the front. We could do that another day. I can show you how to do it with that, but I generally do not put it that in the front part of the short. I only put it at the back because it sits better, it looks better, especially when you're going for a clean look. But if you want to add details to the shorts, to the front part of the trouser or shorts, then go ahead. But for this one, the difference between the front and the back now is going to happen here and here. So at this point, I am going to include that allowance. So let's say we are doing just one dart, and I'm going to add 1 inch here. So that means I'm going to measure from here to here and make sure that I have the same thing from here to here. So I added that allowance here, then I made sure that from here to here is equal to from here to here, because we're eventually going to join the back to the front. For this part as well, I am going to add back that 1 1/4 that we took out, and then still add 1 inch again. That's what we're going to have here. So I will continue this line straight up, adding that 1 1/4 inch back, because we don't need to take it down at the back. We actually even need to add extra. So I'm putting back that 1 1/4, and then I'm adding 1 inch to the top. So I slant this up like this. Now for this part, it's a bit tricky. Since this is a play suit and you want the person to be able to wear it and sit down, because this jumpsuit and play suit can be so cute until you have to sit, and then God, it's like torture down there because everything is tight, everything is pulling you up. I think there's what they call that thing, like that feeling you get when a fabric is squeezing up against your crotch or groin. It's a horrible feeling, and we don't want that. So what I do is to take the tape from the half length at the front under the crotch all the way to the half length at the back. That's the waist length at the back. So from waist length at the front through the bottom of the crotch all the way up to the half length or the waist length at the back. That is what I usually even write as my total crotch length. So for that purpose, since this is a place suit, what I do is I will take my tape. I ran out of space, so I had to stop temporarily. Now what I do is to take my tape, measure from here all the way to this point, and whatever I get, I'll subtract it from that total crotch length. So whatever is left is what I should have here. I should be able to get what's left here, so that determines how wide this goes. But sometimes for clients who want that hugging effect, like under their bum, that brings out, like shapes out the curve of their bum, this method won't work, because it will turn out that the thigh, that is the thigh, meaning all the way around here, it will turn out that this thigh might be too big using that method. So if I know I'm dealing with a client that prefers to have that curve, like beauty over comfort or style over comfort, I do not use that method. What I do instead is to measure from here to here, subtract it from whatever I have as the thigh, then what's left is what I should have from here to this end, plus 2. I take it again. I measure the person's thigh, that is just under the bum. Measure around the person's lap at the highest point. Whatever you have, subtract from here to here from it. What is left, add 2 inches. That is what you take from here to here. Just like we did with the hip, you continue straight down, straight down. Now cutting a trouser is quite different, so I think I'll do a separate video for that one, but this is how you get the short look in that picture. This is the way you get it. So you're taking this all the way down here. Every other thing is the same. Make sure that the length you have here is the same length you have here, because you are eventually going to put them together. There are other features that make up a short / trouser, like welt pockets, the flap, zip flap. I think, yeah, there's a video on zip flap on the channel, though we don't need a zip flap here. This is a jumpsuit, so the zip is at the back. But if you're interested in more videos on shorts, just let me know. Let me know in the comment section, and I will happily do a new video. That's all for now. Bye.